I'm done. Like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm burnout. I'm overwhelmed. My family is angry at me because I take my laptop on vacation. What I do is work with those owner dependent, those founder led businesses to design and create a business that doesn't depend on them. So they're creating freedom right now for themselves, but they're also building a lot of asset value. They're building their business as an asset. If we're going to remove the owner from the center of operations, we kind of need
All right. Welcome back, listener. Today, I have a very special guest on. This is Jen Eckhart of Entrepreneurial Freedom. And Jen has a superpower that I really like. And, in the short time that we've gotten to know each other for the past few minutes, I realize that she helps entrepreneurs break free from the prison that they sometimes create for themselves. What Jen does, and she'll talk more about this in just a second, is she helps CEOs break free and design a business that doesn't involve them in areas that they don't need to be involved in. And Jen, I'm sure we can go a lot deeper into that, but it's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
I'm
of
excited
course.
to see where today leads.
Yes. Well, Jen and I were talking a bit before, and I said, I never know where these episodes lead. I don't really have a set agenda, truthfully, because I like to be very inquisitive. I like to put myself in the shoes of the listener and say, well, what the heck do you do? Tell me about it. So, Jen, with that, I'd love to hear about what you do.
Yes. All right. Gosh, you described it well. All of us went into entrepreneurship with this dream of time and financial freedom, and lots of time with our loved ones and on the golf course and whatever that means. And for many of us, especially during one of our earlier phases, which is when my company or my clients come to me, what we've done is built ourselves a really expensive job with a logo. We end up working harder for ourselves than we ever would have agreed to work for someone else. So what I do is work with those owner dependent, those founder led businesses to design and create a business that doesn't depend on them. So they're creating freedom right now for themselves, but they're also building a lot of asset value. They're building their business as an asset that becomes a business buyers fight over when that time comes because it
Hmm.
doesn't depend on them. So there's kind of this now and later benefit to everything that we do. And I think that's what makes it exciting.
You mentioned the exit, the built to scale so that you can exit the buyers, and that's a dream for, I don't know if it's 50% of entrepreneurs, but there's those that want to build to exit, and there's those that want to build, and well, they don't know where it goes after that. And again, I know that's a pretty basic concept, but when I was looking through your website, I saw some articles that talked about the quiet truths,
Yeah.
and I would love to hear about that because I'm always in the market for hooks. And
Yeah.
tell tell the listener about the quiet truths.
The Quiet Truce is a blog series that we created, and what I have learned, and I've been doing this for 17 years, so I've been around the online world, the business world, for longer than those 17 years. But this current business, and what I'm realizing is that there's a lot of us out there talking about skills and frameworks and templates and things like that. And perhaps it's the wisdom that comes with age or just finally noticing a pattern, but it's often the things that we're afraid to say out loud that are the things that are holding us back. So it's not just the work that I do isn't just about these operational frameworks. It's also about the personal transition of the owner, right? Because what got you here won't get you there. I mean, that's very cliche, but the personal transition for that owner is to become the leader that the next phase of your business needs. And that's
Yeah.
not always easy. And to me, that's where those quiet truths come in, because as business owners, we often don't have a group or a contact that we can pick up the phone and celebrate that six-figure sale that we just made, or
Mm.
kind of commiserate about a team member that we have to let go, that we know and understand fully that it will impact their family tremendously, and we're human and we have that empathy, and still we have to take care of the business and the other 12 employees that are on our team. And those conversations are not conversations you can easily have with your W-2 friends and neighbors.
You're exactly right. I remember when I first started the business, I've been through a couple different business partners, but it's just me at this point. We're running the business. And I think about my team members as well, and I'm not able to talk to them about some of the goings ons in the business and whatnot. But I remember thinking early on it was very lonely. And it wasn't until I joined a mastermind, a group of like minded agency owners, that I was able to vent and decompress. And so I very much subscribe to what you're saying there. I'm sure the listener, they're sitting there saying, you know what? I am in a vacuum chamber, an echo chamber. It's a party of one, and it's not a fun party.
Yeah.
so, how do you help your clients with that? How do you help them get out of their heads and say, you know what? There are people to talk to, or create that sense of community, or even manufacture it.
Yeah. We create it. The work that we do is all about relationships. It's not a turn and burn business for us. We're very much a boutique business, and it's all about creating that relationship, so that my goal is always to feel like I'm the business partner that doesn't take a chunk of equity out of it. And my clients are CEOs, so they're visionaries, they're big idea people, and we want to keep them in that lane because that's what got the business here. So often having someone like me who kind of straddles the line between visionary and integrator. I like to think of myself as a translator sometimes, because
Mm,
we train the ops lead
yeah.
as part of our programs as well. We're working with both of them. And so developing that relationship, asking questions, making it a safe place, but also introducing them to a small community. We call them micro minds, and that's our
Mm,
group programs. They're kept intentionally small so that everybody feels seen and heard.
yeah.
But I have past clients that are still meeting that in dyads or triads
Mm,
years after we met, and that's tremendously rewarding for
yeah.
me, because the community is amazing, because I get to kind of sit back and watch people both mentor others and then be willing to be mentored. And I think that's the place that we all need to be in. Nobody knows everything there is to know. Most of us don't even know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And if you come to these communities with that attitude and that openness, there's so much to gain there.
Mm, yeah. Uh, when you talked about the translator between the visionary and the
Yes.
operator, then, or the visionary and the integrator, then, my mind immediately went to sometimes I'm the mediator
Yeah.
between the two. But to
Yes.
to bounce off of that, Jen, I'm curious, what is it about the visionary, big quotes around that visionary personality, that holds them back? And I guess in one case, maybe they build themselves, this business that they don't truly love, that doesn't fulfill them. But on the other side of the coin, I see in some cases that the visionary title that they put upon themselves, they use that as a badge of honor, but in reality they don't get anything done.
Yeah.
So maybe a couple questions to that. However you want to navigate that statement.
Yes. And I want to be clear, the clients that come to us are trapped in that prison that you spoke about because of their success. We call it the builder's paradox,
Okay.
where the very success that you wanted and that you dreamed about and you worked so hard for has become the very thing that keeps you trapped in your business.
Hmm.
Because you're so successful, remain integral to the operations of the business. So
Yeah.
the people that come to us are tremendously successful, and they don't see a way out of being that hub and spoke. So they are different. They're wired completely different. And one of the things that we do with every client that we bring on is we do a deep diagnostic into every part of their business. And I feel like that's important because I don't believe in any one size fits all, but it gives us a chance to even have a conversation about what's happening, right? So we get to peek under the hood. We do this deep dive, and one of the things that we do as a part of that is a Kolbe inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kolbe inventory for both the operator and the visionary is not about pigeonholing or right or wrong. It's about laying the reports beside each other and saying, Mr. and Miss CEO, you are a fast start. You're a quick start, specifically, is what Kolbe calls it.
And
And
Jen,
that
just
means, go ahead.
Jen, the Kolbe is an assessment, like a personality assessment in layman's terms, right?
Not a
Or is it more than
personality
that?
assessment. They call it an MO, your modus operandi, the way you naturally approach work. So, and loosely, it is a personality inventory. Thank you for explaining that. The way that we use it, though, they have four different dimensions that they kind
Okay.
of measure. And they all come in at different. I've done it enough that I can kind of spot a good operator just
Yeah.
by the way they
You know the
score.
patterns.
Yes, yes. But we use that Kolbe not to say, oh, you're an operator, or oh, you're a visionary. We use it to say, Mr. and Ms. Visionary, you are a quick start. And what that means is you have big ideas and they come fast and you want to implement them very quickly.
Yeah.
Your operator is a high fact finder. And that means before they take off with taking any action, they're going to sit down and figure some things out before they do that. What that means for the two of you, and this is the translating, the mediation thing that you and I were talking about a minute ago. There's a possibility, likelihood, I'll say, not even a possibility, because it happens all the time, that you begin to experience each other as blocks to progress. And so let's talk about this up front. Let's talk about, this is your tendency. This is your tendency. This is how it's going to play out or could play out. So rather than taking it personally or being angry or feeling like someone is purposely trying to thwart progress, take a step back, even if it's you saying, listen, Daniel, I know you're really excited about this and I am too. But remember, I'm a high fact finder, so I'm going to need to dig into this a little bit before I'm ready to have a full conversation about it. It can be that simple. So that's just part of the way that we look at that visionary, and together they're so powerful, right? Because there's these great ideas. But if we have all the great ideas and they're all priority, nothing gets done. And
Yeah.
that's often difficult for the visionary to kind of wrap their mind around, because when they were the founder and they were doing it all, they could turn things around on a dime.
Mm.
We want to continue to be agile, but a group is never going to be quite as agile as a single human being. So we have to
Makes
figure
sense.
for that.
Well, funny enough, I was listening to a different podcast the other day, and they talked about the word priority, and it comes from the Latin word. I'm not going to even try to butcher it, but maybe it's priori. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It means the thing that needs to be done, the critical thing. And what we've done over the years is we've turned it into some mutant and said priorities, made it plural. Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, suddenly everything needs to be done. And I think that's a root cause for a lot of business mishap, Jen. It's everything's a top priority. You know the phrase that I hate the most? ASAP. In all caps. Yes, there's a
Yes,
time and a place for ASAP,
yes.
but it's not
But
every time and every place.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For
So
sure.
I'm curious because what I'm thinking of now is you do the Kolbe assessment for different individuals. You deep dive into the business. What happens if someone's in the wrong seat? Let's say you have somebody who's in charge of funnel building or in charge of project management or in charge of whatever.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh no, they should actually be in a different seat. What happens next?
Well, everything that we do is always done with the team and not to the team. And that
Mm,
is sort of a battle cry that I try to impress upon, because that drastically changes the culture of things, right? We're here to take care of each other as opposed to, feeling like we have to defend ourselves against each other. And so building this healthy um, culture that helps you retain your human capital. And Gallup's done a ton of research on the numbers that go with healthy, engaged cultures.
mm,
In fact, an engagement survey is part of that big diagnostic that we do. But it's always done, to answer your question directly, with the individual instead of to them. So we help the leadership in the company sort of explore with each person career aspirations. What are
okay.
your career aspirations? Do you want to be? What would you do if money were no object? That kind of thing. Because if we can find another place with that for them within the organization, they're already bought into the culture. They already know the ethos and the purpose of what we're doing. They know the vision and what we're working towards. So it behooves us to help uh, them find the right seat within the company, right?
Mm,
But it's always done with them and never to them.
yeah.
Um, that sort of commitment to the people on the team, um, and and I will tell you, my clients parrot this back to me. Not everybody makes the turn. It's a different topic, but making sure the people that should be there stay there.
Yeah.
Um, is part of what we do.
Yeah.
Having a career path and helping make sure that everybody's in the right seat means they're happier with their job
Yeah.
as opposed to not being happy and potentially unengaged because of it.
Hmm. I very much resonate there. When I work with clients, sometimes they have existing team members, and in the sales process I say, look, I'm not here to come in and slash and burn. That's not my
Right.
place. I'm here to be a growth partner in your business, and if that means we don't, for this engagement, we don't build out the funnels or landing pages because you have a tenured and 10-year-old team member.
Yes.
I don't want to disrupt their career. Whether they're remote, 1099, it doesn't matter. It's still their thing that they're being paid for. And who am I to say, nah, as long as they don't suck, just to put it bluntly.
Right.
but
Right.
but I like how you take it a step further and go into a very big deep dive. In some cases, I even use a RACI matrix when clients say, "Hey, who in the world does what when?" And
Mhm.
listener, RACI matrix is just a fancy clinical term for a document that shows who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. There's variations of it, but it allows a business owner to know without a shadow of a doubt, is that being handled and by
Mhm.
whom? And do I need to check it off or who checks it off? So,
Yeah.
Jen, I'm curious if you are you using assets like that for the business, or what's next after you go through the deep dive?
Well, the deep dive actually kind of comes towards the end of our program, honestly.
Oh, okay.
We work around what's called an ops flywheel. And
Okay.
at the center of this flywheel is the purpose, the vision, the mission, the core
Mm,
values of the business. And we start there because it is so central to everything. If you have a wheel where the center isn't true, it's going to wobble
it's a
and
wonky wheel.
fail. Yeah, no matter what else you do. The other three things around the flywheel are process, naturally, platform. We can't not talk about technology in this day and
Mm,
age,
yeah.
and then people, right? So if we look at it through the exit lens, those are intangible capitals that
Mm,
can tremendously boost the multiple with which your business sells. They're that
yeah.
important, but they're also, as I mentioned before, what make you free today and makes the business self-led or self-managed. And so we it's impossible to fully pull those apart. Um, but we do our best to work through those, and we focus on process first
Mm.
because we don't want to slot people into what we think we're going to need before we look at process and platform. So the roles may shift slightly as we go
Yeah.
forward. But part of the diagnostic that we do is, like you, I don't want to be the person that goes in and changes everything and the slash and burn that you talk about. And so depending on the size of the organization, we either talk to all of the employees or a sample of the employees. And those conversations are meant to build bridges and relationships,
Yeah.
and they're very simple. What's working well here? What's not working so well here? And what would you change if you could? You cannot imagine the gold of ideas that come from the people that are actually doing the work. And
Yeah.
they see a better way, but don't feel empowered to say that
Yeah.
or to somehow make that happen. And if we're going to remove the owner from the center of operations, we kind of need a group of empowered, resourceful people doing the work
Mm-hmm.
so that that becomes possible. And
Yeah.
so, even though we don't really go into the job descriptions or what we call role canvases until later on in the program, we're looking at everything all the way around. And again, making sure that whatever we're doing is with them, not to them. They're there 40 hours a week. I'm not.
Yeah.
And my intention is never to make them dependent on me. I don't want to be the consultant that's there in 20 years. I want them to be able to function and thrive
Mm.
without me. So it's teaching
Mm.
them to fish as opposed to doing the
Yeah.
fishing for them.
Oh, excellent. When you're talking about the employee interviews, my mind went to some situations that I've seen before of the old Office Space movie. So tell me what you do here. And Milton says, well, and he doesn't give an answer. Therefore, he's shunned to the basement. And you don't want that to happen.
No.
I like your intentionality with it. And I think that's the term that has rung true in my mind throughout this entire time we've talked is intentionality.
Yeah.
Looking at a business and saying, hey, you may not be the best fit here, but gosh darn it, we're going to find a good place for you. Okay. And if it's not a good fit, well, we'd be doing you a disservice if we kept you around.
Yes.
Spread your
And
wings
that
and
is how I
fly. Yeah. So, Jen, what types of businesses are these? I ask that because I am so focused on the info product space, the coaches and the people that sell courses that also can coach, and that's my lane. But I know I'm in a weird deep pocket of the internet world. So,
yeah.
what type of businesses are these?
Well, primarily professional service businesses, and
Yeah,
I laugh at myself when I say that, and I realize how many other easier niches, verticals it would have been to get into than
don't
an
get me started on that. Yeah,
where we have
I'm
to
playing on
take
hard mode.
yeah, take all of this brilliance and often years of wisdom and experience from an owner's head and find a way to deploy that to the rest of the company so that the company can run without the owner. So I laugh about that a little bit, but service businesses in general, even trades or blue collar,
Hmm.
the intention, to use your word, it's all the same, right? How do we install processes? How do we take care of our people? How do we make sure that we're building value so we have something that's worth something at the end of my time here? Either, and we all think about exit as selling our business. I have
Hmm.
a former client who sold his business to three employees. One of
Hmm.
them was the admin assistant. And so we talk a lot about, because of the size of businesses that we work with, our lower middle market, anywhere from 10 to 100 is really our sweet spot. But we talk about building leadership at all levels. And part of that is really personal to me because I think that's the way we can impact the world. You know, every employee on your team goes home to a family
Yeah.
and a PTA group and a church community and a, you know, soup kitchen, whatever those things are. So the leadership that they learn at the office, so to speak, that's the ripple that we send out into the
Mhm.
world,
Yeah.
right? But also, succession or exit for you can mean succession and somebody within your business that steps up and says, "Hey, I want to take this on." And you
What a
never know who
gift.
that's going to be.
What a cool gift that would be, a blessing. I mean, yes, a monetary gift. You need to be
Yes,
paid
for
for it,
every.
but this ain't no freebie. But yeah, when you were saying that, economic stimulus came to mind. True economic stimulus. If you're pouring into your people, and I believe as entrepreneurs, we have an obligation to build something big enough that other people can come in and reap the rewards from providing value to our clients, absolutely, but our employees and our team members, whether it's 1099 or W2, they need
Mm-hmm.
to reap the rewards. And in the way that I believe we do so is in making sure that they're well taken care of monetarily, well taken care of in terms of, hey, do you fit our core values? And in turn, let me share these core values with you. And also making them feel like they belong, having a
Yeah,
great sense of community.
yeah,
So anyway, I don't talk about that too much. Those are just the thoughts that float around up here.
sure.
I might share with my community or my peer group. But economic stimulus is important to me because I was talking to a colleague of mine just recently, and he has such a heart for small business. And Jen, you know this, but the small business in the U.S. can be categorized what, up to 500 employees, 1,000, whatever it
It
is.
is.
It's
Yeah,
oh, I'm a small
it's pretty
business.
arbitrary.
Yeah. And so there's something to be said about the reignition of small business in the United States. And I mean, heck, all over the world, but I say the US because that's where I live, where you live. It's easier to hit close to home. But I really want to keep poking at the question of why do these business owners, these CEOs, why do they get themselves into the operations? Why are they stuck? What are some examples there, if you don't mind sharing?
No, not at all. In fact, we've sort of codified it, if you will, into the entrepreneurial evolution. Because when we start as founders, normally there's one of us, maybe we have a business partner. And so, out of necessity, we have to be able to do all the things, right? And so, as we grow into what I call a builder phase, then we realize there's literally not enough of us to go around, and we haven't seen our family in days, and we're eating lunch at our desk, kind of thing. So we hire help, but there it's hands help, somebody to do the things, not make the decisions. So that's how we start growing our business. That's
Yeah.
how the business expands, is hiring these hands that can do the things, but it leaves the owner with all the decisions still flowing through them. And some of that is, this is the way I've always done it. Some of it is, this is how I stay on top of what's going on in my own business. And some of it is, I'll hear some version of, well, I don't have anybody on my team that I can trust to do that.
Mm, yeah.
Right. So that's when I spoke earlier about personal transitions. There has to be a certain level of self-awareness here where you take a look. And if you look at a lot of my content, a lot of it's driven like towards that direction, taking a look at yourself and looking at where you're holding on too tightly,
Mm,
and under the belief or the assumption, pardon me,
mhm. Yeah, no problem.
that you're the only one that can do A, B, and C,
Yeah.
and checking in with yourself and asking, is that really true?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we start to get stuck. The other thing that happens as we start to help them give those things away, give those duties away, they've spent years saying, I'm too necessary. I don't want to be this anymore.
Yeah.
Help me get out of this. And then when it starts to happen, there's almost this anxiety that arises around
Mm,
what's my value now? What am I going to do? Why does the company even need me? And it's really anxiety provoking. So it's one of those quiet truths that we need to talk about, because you have a tremendous amount of value, but the value and the way you deliver it is changing.
mm, yeah. That I see that quite often with my clients. And I work with a lot of solopreneurs who are transitioning to their first few team members.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, we catch them at an inflection point in their business. They have a little traction, and then we help them scale much further, faster. But I talk about this concept a lot with my clients in terms of income producing activities, IPAs like the beer, and
Yeah.
time suck activities, TSAs like the line that we all know about. And I break it down into a couple categories. There's actually a YouTube video on this. So listener, if you want to learn more about this, please check out my YouTube channel and go to that video. And
I'm going
Jen,
to check it out too.
yeah, please. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But I break it down into a couple categories of, all right, look, if you're spending your time on email inbox management, well, that's something you absolutely need to delegate. And if you're spending your time on building out web pages or copywriting, even, hey, that's still something you can delegate. Should you delegate it all right away? Absolutely not, but there's stages to it, like in life
Yeah.
and in everything. And then at the tip top, you need to be focusing on the very large income producing activities, strategic partnerships, visionary-esque activities, even presenting webinars. I know that I say that because that's my world, but those are the activities that you need to be focused on. And Jen, to land the plane on what I'm talking about is I see clients start to like, but hey, what should I be doing? What are we doing? I'm like, hey, we got this. You're good. You don't need to. Don't meddle. Please don't meddle. Um, we'll get you when we need you, but I need you to be focused on these other bigger things. Build up business friendships. And so, Jen, to your point, I see clients, they get skittish, and it's almost like they want to revert back to, what is it, regression to the mean, and they go
Yeah.
back to, hey, do you need any help with like, no, I don't want you messing with the you hired us. Get out of here. Get out of the kitchen, essentially. We're
It's
over
so
here cooking.
reliable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
But I went to a Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within, and one of the key concepts I took away from it and still remember, 6 years later, is the concept of the thermostat, and that we have our internal temperature. We're used to doing
Mhm.
certain things at a certain time, and when we need to do something new, oh, our internal thermostat kicks on and says, here's a little warmth. You're a little too cold. And so I think about that a lot with my clients, in that, hey, it's okay. They're not going to know how to do a certain thing, or do that business friendship esque activity, referral partners in this case,
Mhm.
because they're not used to it. Their internal thermostat is kicking on and saying, I got to do copywriting, or I got to do, I don't know, email management, which, hey, we don't do. But anyway, with that being said, Jen, I'm curious. I'd love to hear a case study, a success story or two from you to land the plane on this. This has been a great conversation so far, especially for me thinking about, hey, I need to constantly remember, Daniel, you need to make sure you have the right people in the right seat at the right time, and you need to take care
Yeah.
of them. And I'm sure the listener is thinking the same thing. Hey, Daniel Pope here. Real quick, I want to give you a huge thanks for listening. If you're enjoying it, I'd love it if you share with others. That's how I get the word out, by you sharing it with somebody that could really benefit from this. Now, I started this podcast to stand out above the noise, to give real growth tactics in a crazy world when others may give some misinformation or not cover everything you need to know. That's not my MO. My MO is being able to give back, being able to help others see what they actually need to do in order to grow. And that's why personally, my company, Be Known, we don't offer any courses or coaching programs. We're a done for you service provider because we know in this world, sometimes people just need a helping hand, a connected team, and an expert to be there every step of the way. So again, I really appreciate you listening and talk to you soon. Tell me about some success stories you've had.
Gosh. I think my biggest, there's a number of them, and they're on the website. You can look at them
Yeah.
there. But the ones that I'm proudest of, I think, are the clients that have come to me. I'm going to use an amalgam here. The clients that come to me and say, Jen, I'm done. Like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm burnout. I'm overwhelmed. My family is angry at me because I take my laptop on vacations. So help me clean this up, and we're going to sell it. And then we get to the end of that first year, and we start talking about what's going to be next.
Yeah.
And the response is, oh, maybe this isn't so bad. I'm going to stick with this for a little bit longer. So my favorite stories are those, combined with, I can think of two clients that I've had over the years that we were quickly able to get them out of operations. And we were just talking about, what value do I have? What do I mean? Well, what you're describing there is what we call going from builder to ambassador, right? Becoming the champion of the vision and mission, both internally and externally, building those big strategic partnerships, being a thought leader. So a lot of times we'll have the owner work on their personal brand as a way to give them something that they can really chew on and work towards while we're still working on freeing the business. I bring that up because I've had a couple of clients that actually spin up a new division within their business. So we'll talk about structure in terms of a parent company that has these employees and then how we manage the divisions from there. So their ability to not just leave operations, but spin up a whole new business model within the first year is tremendous. One of them that I'm thinking about, they started at 6 million in revenue when we started our work together. When we finished the first year, they were at 8.5 million and had a whole new division spun up.
Great. Yeah.
So it's those really big thinkers, and they get the best out of us, right? They get the biggest results. But it's also about the willingness to let go and step off that cliff, if you will, into whatever that next phase of leadership looks like for them.
Yeah.
And it's human nature. I teach this, and I still go back and, dabble with setting up a process and ClickUp, or, figuring out the project management, because when we're working on something uncertain, we need to feel like there's something we're good at.
Yeah.
And so those things really serve a purpose. So as we go through this, we have to remember that we're all human beings doing the best that we can. And sometimes it's just the awareness that I spoke about before that can help us leave those patterns.
That's powerful. Listener, I want you to remember that when we're working on something that we're unsure about, we need those micro wins.
Yeah.
We like to revert back to something we feel comfortable with or we know how to do. So is there a specific process we could go through? So for example, if I'm learning, or if I'm stretching my boundaries and I'm learning a new marketing skill, for example, then should I take a break and go back to the tasks that I'm comfortable with, or should I just keep pushing through?
I think I'm going to use the political response. It depends. There's
Of
a
course.
whole lot
Yes,
of
Senator. No, I'm kidding.
things that could go into that we don't have the context for here now.
Yeah.
But yes, and they don't have to be business things that you step into. Maybe you pick up a tennis game that you haven't played in years because the business has has taken over your time,
Yeah.
maybe that's the thing that you step back into to feel that mastery.
Yeah.
Maybe we talk a lot about moving from manager to mentor,
Hmm.
and that is generally very appealing. That role is very appealing to a visionary. And so rather than stepping back in to do the accounting yourself, how can you effectively mentor the person that's doing it right now?
Yeah. Hmm.
So there's a number of different ways, and as different as the individual themselves. You kind of
Yeah.
have to figure out what it is that makes you tick to
Yeah.
determine what it is that you need to scratch that
Oh
itch,
man.
for lack of a better description.
I see a vague map forming. For me, I go to the gym quite often because I know what I'm doing. I'm I'm good at the gym. It's it's a little hard not to be good at the gym if you've gone for a while. So it's the same movements. So when I'm working on something very stressful, I fall back to going to the gym because I know exactly how it's going to go for me. There's not
Hmm.
much variation. I guess that's a pretty healthy thing to do. Sorry. I know I sound very, very but but
It's
I
a
see
great
what you're
example
saying
of what I'm
here.
trying to describe. Yeah, perfect.
This entire week. This week has been very stressful for me. We're dealing with a lot of growing pains, and
Mhm.
um I'm just onboarding some new team members and whatnot, and I've gone to the gym every single day this week, and it's felt great. And it's my little reward too.
Yeah,
And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about. I was talking with another colleague of mine, and they were talking about giving yourself grace and also giving yourself a reward throughout the day.
100%.
And I said, yeah, I like the gym because it's my little gift to myself. And that's kind of a crazy gift, but I don't think it's crazy. It's my gift. It's my reward for slogging it out.
Yeah,
Huh.
so many gifts there. One of the things that we do too that I just want to share is, we're selling outcomes. I'm invested in an outcome for you, not in providing you with a really cool looking binder that just gets put on a shelf somewhere. And in order to test that we have those outcomes, not the binders, there's some rules that we put into place, but it also forces you as the owner to shift gears. So the first one is, I call it the Friday effect. So we kind of ran across this by accident years ago, saying you need to take Fridays off, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to feel better, you're going to think better, you're going to have ideas, because ideas don't come when you're slogging through a task list. So we started insisting that the owner take Fridays off. Then we started suggesting and then requiring that they take a week sabbatical after our first 6 months together. And that, when I say a week sabbatical, that means no contact with the office at all. And these are the muscles that we need the visionary to be able to exercise and get better at, to kind of
Mm,
extend your gym reference.
yeah.
But they also give us a way to pressure test while they're gone.
Yeah.
Owner's not available on Fridays. We got everything we need. Can we handle what comes up? We can let go in little increments like that. So to extend that gym reference, we don't know what's broken if you're always here.
Yeah. That's powerful. So, listener, the reason that I say that is because I take most Fridays off. However, I haven't because I've started this podcast,
Yes.
Reignition. I'm doing the podcast again. But what I do is right after this, Jen, I told you before we started, this is my
Yeah.
last call of the day. We started this at what time? 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
And it's 11:48 now. After this, I'm going to eat lunch, and then I'm going to work on the business, on keyword there.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not truly feeling it that day, if I'm just completely burnt out, I'm going to
Mhm.
go for a walk or a run or go to Costco, and it's me time. And I very much subscribe to that because it's difficult for me to step away. And
Mhm.
I think about your business owners that are doing much more than I am at this point, but I I feel like we'd walk the same path. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
For me, it's not necessarily is the business going to fall down and be in shambles, but it's more so I've got to keep going to drive it forward. Keep
Yes.
at it. If I don't do it, I'm going to lose. Someone else is lapping me. Like a weird
Yes.
NASCAR race, the Daytona 500, but it's not.
Yes. Yes. And often, like we talked about at the very beginning, this is a great way to bring it full circle. We went into business so we could have those Costco runs or the Friday afternoons or whatever it is. And because of that almost insatiable drive that you're describing to make sure nobody laps us,
Yeah.
we overwork.
Yes.
We do too much, or we're not doing the right things. And to
Yeah.
jump on the example that you gave before, would you pay somebody else $500 to $1,000 an hour to manage your inbox? My guess is no. But when you're doing it yourself, that's what you're paying yourself.
Yeah.
That's how you
Yeah.
need to value your time.
Mm,
Um, so there's just
powerful.
so much that goes into designing. I don't even like to call it building anymore. It's
Yeah.
designing what you want, because
Yes.
the build doesn't have to happen by
Yeah.
you. Your job is figuring out what you want to do, why you want to do it from a business and personal standpoint. But you don't have to worry about the how. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of moving into that ambassador and then finally the investor role.
Hmm. How powerful is that? Listener, food for thought. It doesn't have to be a slog. You design the business that you want. And you've heard me talk about this before, but I believe that the best business model, this is my own opinion, is something that is lean plus
Yeah,
profitable plus something that you love. You don't have to build a Fortune 500 company if you don't want to. And
100%.
frankly, in my opinion, it's a time and a place for it, but it's not my time and place.
Yeah.
So, Jen, this has been a pleasure. So,
Yeah.
where can people find you?
Entrepreneurialfreedom.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Jen Eckhart. I try to post as much educational content as I can. Entrepreneurship, as you mentioned before, I think it makes the world go round.
Yeah.
It's the stimulus that our economy needs. I can't work with everybody, but I can help people that follow along and want to be part of that movement.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on. Listener, please go and check out her blog, check out our website, schedule a call if you feel like you've built yourself, oh no, a cage, and you want to make sure your people are in the right place. So, Jen and listener, have a great one.
Thanks, Daniel.
Hey there, Daniel Pope here again. I want to take a couple seconds to talk about my company, Be Known. Now, Be Known exists to be a done-for-you service provider for online-based businesses, coaches, and those that sell online courses and information products. We help them grow from 6 figures to 7 figures and then into 8 figures. We do this because there's so much misinformation out there. So many people just selling a course or just a coaching program over how to grow. Well, we're different in the fact that we actually do it with our clients. We take care of the advertising. We take care of the email marketing, the tech, all the tech. Yes, all the tech, the landing pages, the funnels, the growth strategies and tactics. So I think of ourselves as a expert implementation team plus a fractional CMO per se that guides you every step of the way. So if you've listened to this podcast or an episode and said, okay, that's great, but I don't really know how to do that, or I just need help. Well, that's why we exist. So I want to invite you to a call with me, a consultation where we can talk through your business, talk through what's going on, what challenges you have, what constraints, what bottlenecks, and figure out a path forward. If we're a mutual fit to work together, great. If not, no problem. We'll send you on your way with resources and stuff that can help you get up to speed quick. So again, I invite you to talk more with me, and that is beknownonline.com. beknownonline.com/start is where you'll go. And I cannot wait to talk to you. Again, if you enjoyed this podcast, I'd love it if you can share with some friends. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to your success. Take care.